Welcome to Fairfield Meeting House. Welcome to people on Zoom. We'd like to ask people here to put your phones on mute or airplane mode or turn them off so there's more capacity for folks to get on Zoom. My name is Linda Lynn, and last month Josiah texted me, like, would I be on the facing bench? And I said, I don't think I'm allowed. I'm not a member, even though I've been coming a year and a half. And he texted back and said, well, that's not a problem. And I thought, well, that's kind of a loose ship kind of thing. But anyway, I'm moving from being a Methodist refugee to being a Quaker wannabe. So I do appreciate, I feel like today, well, this is the first time I've done the facing bench, which I had to Google, like, what's the history and meaning of the facing bench? But I feel like I've been given my little tiny Quaker training wheels, so thank you for the opportunity. We're going to, I don't know if Amanda can come forward and lead the song. We're going to have worship in the Green Book, worship in song number 161, Have Thine Own Way, Lord. So stand as able and join in the singing. A meditation on grace. Paul Simon released his song American Tune in 1973, and it was his reflection on the previous decade and also concerns about where our country was headed. I first heard the song in the mid-1970s in a light-dimmed Market Square Arena, sung a cappella by the Starland Vocal Band. From the first notes, I knew something extraordinary was happening. I closed my eyes as the words just washed through me at a time in my life of turmoil, depression, and questioning if I even wanted to be on this planet. It was like an earthquake. By the time the song finished, the tectonic plates inside of me had shifted and resettled in a new way. I knew I was going to be okay. It was life-changing. It was life-saving. For the first time, I knew the meaning and the experience of grace, specifically unlooked-for grace. This past week marked the 23rd anniversary of 9/11, and I recalled how the words to American Tune played over and over in my head during those terrible days, and how prescient some of the lyrics and images in that song were for New York City on that day, but written 28 years prior. American Tune by Paul Simon. Many's the time I've been mistaken and many times confused, and yes, I've often been forsaken and certainly misused. Oh, but I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm just weary to the bones. Still, you don't expect to be bright and bon vivant so far away from home, so far away from home. And I don't know a soul who's not been battered. I don't have a friend who feels at ease. I don't know a dream that's not been shattered and driven to its knees. But it's all right. It's all right. For we've lived so well so long. Still, when I think of the road we're traveling on, I wonder, what's gone wrong? I can't help it. I wonder, what's gone wrong? And I dreamed I was dying. I dreamed that my soul rose unexpectedly and, looking back down at me, smiled reassuringly. And I dreamed I was flying, and high up above, my eyes could clearly see the Statue of Liberty sailing away to sea. And I dreamed I was flying. We come on a ship they call the Mayflower. We come on a ship that sailed the moon. We come at the age's most uncertain hours and sing an American tune. Oh, and it's all right. It's all right. You can't be forever blessed. Still, tomorrow's going to be another working day, and I'm trying to get some rest. That's all, I'm trying to get some rest. A couple of days after the towers fell, there was a newscast about two American religious leaders, the Reverends Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson, who announced that an angry God had allowed our enemies to punish us because we had become a nation of homosexuals, abortionists, liberal courts, schools without prayer, and, wait for it, the ACLU. Vile, hateful, harmful words heaped on our sorrow and our sadness. Another story followed from a reporter whose friend had died in the towers, leaving behind a wife and a 4-year-old son. The mother had the task of telling her child why Daddy was never, ever coming home again. She explained that Daddy had been at work when something terrible happened, and a big airplane had crashed into the building and knocked it down, killing Daddy and many, many other people. She told how at the moment of death, God had reached down and scooped up Daddy in his arms and gently carried him to heaven. There was a pause. Then the little boy asked a question, a theological question, a question of pure compassion, a question of grace. Mommy, does God have enough arms? It's time for our community sharing, and we will start with the folks on Zoom for any announcements. Any announcements from folks on Zoom?
I have an announcement. We have one more week before our Family Promise Support Week. And thank you all who came to hear Julie. She had a wonderful presentation of everything that she's doing to help our community. For our meals that we're providing next week, we still have 2 more slots to be filled if anybody is interested. If you want to know more about it, because it doesn't have to be a fancy meal, it could be hot dogs and mac and cheese, and these kids would love it. But we can't do that every single night. But anyway, I want to thank everyone who's signed up so quickly, and I'll be sending out emails this week as we try to finish filling out our schedule the rest of the way. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom for announcements? in the meeting house. Any announcements? And please give your name.
Thank you. Hi, Anita Kamek. Just a reminder that meeting for business is at Rise of Worship today, and it will be right around noonish as normal. I think last week I had mentioned that it might have been late, but it will be at normal time, so right around noonish. Thank you.
I'd like to make an announcement that we're selling our house and moving to West Side Garden Plaza. And we've already paid for 1 month's rent or occupancy. There we go. And it's kind of a big move for me because I have been in my house since '74. Wow. And Susan's been with me for 7 years. They can hear me. So.
Yeah, give us prayers for strength.
Prayers for strength, that is for sure. Amen. And a lot of you know where West Side Garden Plaza is. I know Phil knows. And we expect to be visited by him every once in a while. So I wanted to let you know that we might not be coming to church every other Sunday or every whenever, but appreciate a visit and might be able to.
We'll be back.
I think they have a service of some sort of
Shuttle bus.
where they can cart us around.
Right.
Well, I'm still
Right.
driving. We'll be back.
I forgot that.
Remember me?
Susan and I were high school classmates, and I didn't know her back then because a fellow by the name of Fred Stagmoller had her already scooped up. So anyway, I wanted to make it official of letting you all know, and so
Probably a month or so. Yeah. Probably moving in a month or so. Yeah.
it might be sooner. Okay. You all have a good rest of your life.
My name is Perpetual Announcements, or Ann. I'm trying to do this in chronological order again. This afternoon, anybody who is not going to monthly meeting, or anybody who has gone to monthly meeting and still has a little vim left for the afternoon, ask you to go down to University Park, downtown Indianapolis, for the Festival of Faith. It's free. Parking on the street is free in Indianapolis on Sunday. If you're not quite sure where it is and you get in the area, you can roll down your window and hear where it is by the very loud drum circle that's always there. It's booths from almost every religious organization in the Indianapolis area. Just a huge spectrum. And they all have literature and are willing to share what they do and why they like it and how it works and whatever questions you've got. And it's just enormous fun. So I invite you to go down there. It's good for kids too, lots of kids stuff too. So, and then next week, Sunday morning, 9:30, we're having a special program again in chat room. This one is about Christian nationalism. All I could think of was fundamentalism, which is essentially the same thing. Christian nationalism by a very experienced, knowledgeable speaker. So get there at 9:30. There's coffee. There's sustenance of some sort. And listen to that. Is that everything that I need on that? I forget anything? In the next week, I'm not going any further. Okay.
Sorry. That's okay. Hi, my name is Josiah Hostetler, and if there wasn't already enough going on, there are two series going on. The Chancellor, IU Indianapolis is kicking off the Chancellor's Diversity Speaker Series this Tuesday, September 17th, with Andrew Carl, author of The Black Tax, 150 Years of Theft, Exploitation, and Disposition. And there will be several sessions following that in the next 4 weeks. Also, the 2024-2025 New View film series starts on Thursday, September 19th at 7 p.m. at the Eidson Duckwall Recital Hall at Butler University, with the film Mission Joy about the relationship between the Dalai Lama and Bishop Desmond Tutu. So it'll be very cool. And then there are films every other month or so until February, where we will be invited to view the film Brother Outsider. So make sure you mark your calendars. All of the information Jeff has put for us on the events page at Fairfield.
I did forget something. Out on the bulletin, I'm not even going to give you details on this one. Out on the bulletin board on next Saturday, there is a Hendricks County Interfaith Picnic. So there's a poster. Go look.
Sue Walton, and if you like books, the Friends of the Plainfield Library has their quarterly sale. It begins on Wednesday, but if you're sneaky, you can come in on Tuesday night at about 6:30 when they set up and get the first choice, like some of us will, and it goes through next Sunday. Saturday is half price. And on Sunday, it's $5 bags. And unlike Avon, which has, if you have one small bag, it's $5 and the other is $7. No, we do one bag and it's $5. And also the Friends of the Library are selling coupons for Crew Car Wash this month, and 50% goes to the Friends of the Library, where we do a lot of different programming and things. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements in the meeting house?
Let us remember today what we are grateful for. We are grateful for old homes where children are raised, memories created, warmth and fellowship experienced. We are grateful also for new homes, new neighbors, the opportunity for an expanded and enriched life. We are grateful this morning for parents who are still and are no longer with us. We are especially grateful, O God, for the warmth of human fellowship and support for those who travel long distances to console, to embrace, and comfort. Oh God, remind us always that it is never a waste of our time to be loving and tender to those who hurt. We are grateful, oh God, that even in our challenges, even in our sicknesses, we meet fellow travelers who with their compassion and exuberance for life inspire us and call us to a more nobler existence. Oh God, we are grateful for those in religion who picnic together, who gather on beautiful days to learn, to listen, to teach, and to give. Oh God, may this spirit of camaraderie mark all of our relationships so that we live not in fear of one another, but in deep love and compassion for each other. And so, oh God, in that vein, we pray this morning for the citizens of Springfield, Ohio, who find themselves caught up in webs of lies and harms that would propose to harm their community. Oh God, draw those people together, whether they have lived there 100 years or 100 days. Move among them, unite them, teach them to love and care deeply for one another, and teach us, oh God, to do the same, to welcome to our communities the world's hurting and oppressed, to see them not as interlopers or those who will take from us, but as those who are our friends, our brothers and sisters in need of our assistance. Oh God, we are so grateful this morning that we can offer that. This prayer we offer in the name of Jesus, who in his earthly journey befriended, embraced, cared for, and loved. May we, O God, do likewise. Amen. Well, speaking of sharing, now's our time for community giving, so we'll need some strong folks to pass some baskets and gather food. Well, I was sitting at my desk a few weeks ago after Colorado, but before the motorcycle ride to Ohio, and my phone rang, and it was a Quaker calling from out of state, a man I had met several years ago at a conference, and he called because their Quaker meeting, which is located in a very small town, is in decline. And he wanted to know if I had any suggestions that might revive their meeting. He said, our biggest problem is that people don't know we're here. I said, yes, that's a problem. If people don't know you're there, they can hardly visit. Now, can they? And I said, what have you done? He said, well, I suggested to the meeting that we run an advertisement in our local newspaper. It's free. They do that, free for the churches. And I said, let's advertise in the newspaper. I said, how'd that go? He said, well, when I brought it up, some folks in the meeting were uncomfortable with that, believing that if God wanted people to come to their meeting, God would tell them directly, not through a newspaper. I felt a headache coming on. I said, do you have a website? Or maybe even a Facebook page? Facebook is free after all. He said, well, they didn't like that idea either. Have you encouraged them to invite their friends? 80% of the people who attend Quaker meetings do so because they were invited by a friend. He said, well, I would, but Quakers don't evangelize. I could feel the headache move across the top of my head and down my forehead and lodge between my eyes where it just pulsed away. I could actually feel that big vein there just pulse in and out. Oh, my Lord. Well, we've been talking about the things early friends got just right, and one of them was their comfort with innovation, with trying different things. They were not just comfortable with new forms of thinking and living, but when it became clear to them that their old world no longer worked, they welcomed innovation. When given the choice between innovation and tradition, early friends almost always innovated, almost always took the new path, the fresh direction. They practiced the Christian faith differently. They exercised power differently. They viewed women and people of color differently. They read and interpreted the Bible differently. And when given the opportunity, they governed differently. They were always willing to imagine living in a new way, a better way, a fresh way. A modern misconception of Quakers is that we are mired in the past, that we dress like people used to dress and talk like people used to talk, but that is a caricature of us, and like all caricatures, is a false and exaggerated impression. Do you know that one of the indicators of good mental health, perhaps one of the strongest indications of sound mental health, is our willingness and ability to embrace change? Without that ability, we perish. I've quoted this more than once, but the longer I live, the more I appreciate its truth, that it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most adaptable to change. The one most adaptable to change. Case in point, last Sunday's New York Times had an article about the 2 remaining Shakers who live at Sabbath Day Lake in Maine. It was titled, "There are only 2 Shakers left. They've still got utopia in their sights." Well, that's nice. It's good to have a goal, but for crying out loud, evolve, change, progress. Seriously, I mean, think about it for us. If you had to dress like a Quaker from the 1800s, would you still be a Quaker? I wouldn't be. If you couldn't enjoy music, would you still be a Quaker? Not me. If you had to visit other churches and stand during worship to argue with them about theology, would you still be a Quaker? I wouldn't be. Well, maybe I would be. Early Quakers believed their vitality was a sign of God's favor, which incidentally I have to tell you is always the go-to emotion when things are going well for you or for your group. Well, it's because we're experiencing God's favor because we're doing something right. Every religion, every person says that when times are good. God is rewarding our loyalty and devotion. But I have another theory about this, that I think their vitality stemmed from their determination to embrace innovation, to employ the most modern forms of communication to spread their message. Now, an early name for Quakers was Publishers of Truth. We were called that before we were called Quakers, Publishers of Truth, denoting their adoption of mass marketing or pamphleteering. Pamphleteering, those little pamphlets that you see now, that you only find now in the backs of restroom urinals and rest stops. Quakers invented those, I'll have you know. They published catchy titles such as False Prophets and False Teachers Described. And here was another one, Poems Intended to Promote Piety and Virtue in the Minds of Young People. And the much-loved pamphlet, Serious Considerations on Several Important Subjects vis-a-vis on War and its Inconsistency with the Gospel, Observations on Slavery, and Remarks on the Nature and Bad Effects of Spirituous Liquors. Pamphleteering was the 17th century version of Facebook, Instagram, and X rolled together. X, you'll remember, was formerly known as Twitter and is owned by Elon Musk, who was formerly known as Rational. Significant social movements take advantage of cultural progress and developments. Christianity did not become a world religion because Jesus discovered a new message. Almost everything Jesus taught was rooted in a Canaanite polytheistic religion that predated Jesus by 3,000 years. Christianity took root because the Roman Empire had spread across the known world, leaving in its wake a network of roads and a system of law that made possible the wide dissemination of beliefs and ideas. The Apostle Paul was able to travel to the capital of that empire where his ideas were embraced, shared, and dispersed. Had Christianity been born in South Africa or the American West or Greenland, it would have been nothing more than a regional folk religion. That it lived and thrived is because the first Christians took full advantage of the innovations and advances of their day. This begs the question, do we, friends, today embrace cultural innovations that help us share our much-needed message with the wider world? Now, that is a collective question we can ask ourselves and keep in front of ourselves, but it is not just a collective question, it is a personal, individual question. Do I embrace modern developments in order to grow, develop, connect, and evolve? Or am I mired in senseless traditions that have lost their meaning and vitality? I have a friend who refuses to get an email address or a phone. And he always is asking me, why isn't anyone in touch with me? I said, you got to meet him halfway. You got to meet him halfway. You have to be willing to change. Danville had its annual fair on the square last week. The Catholics are right. There is a purgatory. So there I was, Joanne and I, and we were walking around looking at things, and I visited a booth. I saw the neatest booth I'd ever seen at the Danville Fair on the square, and I purchased a few posters for our meetings. You can see them on the doors leading into the hallways here. Perhaps you've even seen them already. But I found another one. The poster I didn't hang, I wanted you to see it together. Lynn, you can bring it up now. The one I didn't bring because I wanted you all to see it together is this one. It's written by a man named John A. Cuff. And I'm just going to hang it here. This is high tech now. You're not only getting an audio message, you're getting a visual message. Be brave enough to suck at something new. Be brave enough to suck at something new. We're going to hang that right there. Well, I thought we were. We are. There we go. Be brave enough to suck at something new. Early friends thrived because they were brave enough to suck at something new. Our meeting will thrive when we are brave enough to suck at something new. You will thrive. You will grow. You will evolve. You will experience joy when you are brave enough to suck at something new. So let's take a lesson from early friends. And what are we going to do? We're going to be brave enough to suck at something new. There you go.
This is Paula Cardoza-Jones, and it occurs to me that that pretty much sums up the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus would say, you have heard this, but I tell you this. Try something new.
And this kind of reminds me of at school. We always tell our kids, you know, they say, I can't do something. We'll tell them, no, you can't do something yet. Yet. And there's a book called The Magical Yet. You know, and little kids will say to me in the library, I don't know how to read this. I said, and that's why you're at school. You don't know how to read it yet. But you will. So, yeah, we can't do everything the first time we try. We're going to suck at it if we do something new. But we got to be willing to get out there and do it, to try it.
Oh, fuck. Get that off of there.
I saw something on the web recently, so you know it's correct. When it comes to doing something new, there are two things you could say. You could say, I could do that. The other thing you could say is, I can't possibly do that.
Try it.
Either way, you're correct.
Thank you for allowing me to do something new today. So if you'll join us stand as able and singing our last song in the Worship and Song Book, number 18, O God of all creation.
To that wonderful little booth there at the Danville Fair on the Square, there was another booth, and it had t-shirts and hats and signs that you could put up in your yard if you were so inclined. And one of the t-shirts read, "I miss the world I grew up in." And I thought about that. I thought about the world I grew up in. There was some good in that world, and there was actually a lot of good in that world. And I say that as a white man. It was great if you were a white man growing up when I grew up. But if you were a woman when I was a kid, you couldn't get your own credit card. Your husband had to sign for it. If you didn't have a husband, you were out of luck. If you were a person of color when I was growing up, you didn't get a good education. You didn't get an opportunity to live where white people lived. You didn't have any of the opportunities and advantages that the pigmentation I possessed granted people back then and left some others out. I don't miss at all the world I grew up in. I look forward to the world we are creating together. I look forward to opportunity for all people. I look forward to love that transcends race and nation. I look forward to people of different cultures joining together and doing wonderful, beautiful things. That's the world I want to live in, and that's the world I look forward to. Turn and greet friends.